Hello and welcome to a new edition of World of Books. Today we bring you the latest books available to all our viewers to read both in Egypt and around the region. So do stay tuned for more coming up on A World of Books. The Locksmith. It's a novel written by the novelist and translator Ahmed Abdul Latif, and it won the country's Encouragement Award this year. The beginning of the novel takes us to a magical world of vision, writing and artistic structure. The novel gives one the dream or ability to close the sense of hearing, so one doesn't have to get bothered or confused by all the painful stories. Then it gets more complicated till it becomes like an annoying nightmare, and all who were afraid of confrontation paid dearly for this. All these actions are intended to be good, to help people, but they end up losing their self-confidence. The author was eager to let the readers find themselves in the characters of the novel. It really is a fantasy, but it also contains some realistic goals. The novel aims at ignoring time, as the novel doesn't have a sequence of events, but the events take place at the modern age, and it might be during the 90s or in the beginning of the new millennium. The author also ignores the element of place and concentrates on the environment instead. The author just mentions that it was set in a village near the capital, and it's like a small town which is about to collapse. Had it not been for some phrases he mentioned that had to do with prayer, we wouldn't have even identified the location. We also notice the style and impact of the translator Ahmed Abdul Latif, as he makes a fusion between the place of the imaginary shape in the foreign novel, the universality of place, time and characters on one hand, and the peculiarity of ideas, perspective and language on the other hand, created a novel that includes a clear humanitarian attitude and a distinguished writing style which presents independent ideas. A new book entitled Where Did Muslims Start and What Will They Reach? The book includes lectures and articles for the Muslim Libyan scientist Ibrahim Bashir al-Ghul. Dr. Muhammad al-Shuhomi wrote the preface of this book, which consists of 295 pages. It contains several lectures and articles like thinking about the reality and turning it into practical work in Islam and progress, the economic crisis, the value of dialogue and moderation, a national language, the civilization conflict, the different reactions about continuing the religion and ending the prophecy after the death of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and finally some information about the thinker Ibrahim Bashir, written by Haytham Ghalib al-Nahi. Dr. Muhammad al-Shuhomi said in the preface that these lectures are the keys to understand the ideas of the thinker Ibrahim al-Ghul. He referred to the disorder of the contemporary world from different cultural trends which are caused by the intellectual conflicts and its results which affect our Arab countries and Islamic world. He added that with the several political and cultural setbacks which the Arab and Islamic world have witnessed, this disorder has increased. He clarifies that we can easily notice the impact of the spirit of defeat in intellectual and media mistakes and a lot of fuss through stupid journalism and satellite and terrestrial channels with boring issues that are void of the scientific topics which build the mind and refine the taste and awareness. He also says that the only way to accomplish all that is by knowledge and discovery through thinking, faith, and its method is realization, commitment, as well as through prudence and creation through art. Without all this, he says the nation will not be able to confront the challenges of these days. Dr. al-Shuhomi said that these are some of what things he learned from the writings of the Muslim thinker Ibrahim al-Ghul. Zenobia in the Phoenix Procession, a Moroccan theatrical text by the Cultural Palace. The book was recently published by the Public Authority for Cultural Palaces, and it is written by Dr. Abdulrahman Ibn Zidane. The writer tries to resume the efforts and achievements of the creators who played an outstanding role in establishing the Moroccan theatrical text, especially the great thinker-writer Abdulrahman Ibn Zidane, who aims at asserting the Arabic identity, and it's not a stable or fixed identity. He believes that going back to the Arabic and human heritage is a real color for the Arabic theatrical creation, so the heritage could be more realistic. Therefore, he had to take inspiration from myths and historical events, as he did in this text, which he depended on the historical events of Queen Zenobia and the mythology of the phoenix bird. It is notable that the writer was eager to replace the legendary characters with other characters from this age with their own and different opinions. Types of Thinkers, a new book by Ammar Ali Hassan. The book entitled Types of Thinkers has recently been published. It deals with many political, cultural, economic, and social cases which have nothing to do with the current events. The book can be read during different times and at separate places. Besides, the author uses different styles of writing. Actually, the author recognizes the difference between the literary writing, which has to do with rhetoric and metaphors, and the scientific language, which has to be clear and accurate. In the introduction, the author writes, "Most of these ideas came to my mind, and I became preoccupied with them till I put pen to paper. Some of these ideas were just compliance with the new facts. They haven't dealt with the situation from a journalistic angle. I've always tried to neglect and focus on the hidden and other issues." It's worth mentioning that the author graduated from the Faculty of Economics and Political Science, Cairo University, in 1989. He got a PhD in Political Science in 2001. The author wrote many literal works and won many awards. As for the last one he won, it was El Tayyib Saleh International Award for Creative Writing in Short Stories in 2011, as well as the Sheikh Zayed Award in Developing and Building the Country in 2010, and finally the country's Excellence Award in Social Knowledge in 2012. The Book Authority published the complete poetic works of Rimbaud. The Public Egyptian Authority for Books has published a book entitled The Complete Poetic Works by the French poet Arthur Rimbaud. This book was translated and prefaced by the poet Rifat Salem. The book consists of 650 pages, including a file titled Rimbaud Faces. It presents the different stages of Rimbaud's life since his childhood until his death, in addition to some other drawings made by him and by some great artists such as Paul Verlaine, Fernand Laguerre, and Picasso. This book has 3 prefaces. The first one deals with the styles of translation. It also gives hints about the previous translated works. As for the second preface, it deals with the biography of Rimbaud, whether during the period he spent in France or after he had gone to Aden and Harare. The third preface is a translation of what Paul Verlaine wrote on Rimbaud's poems. As for the poetic section of this book, it presents the works which the author used to do at school as the rhetoric homework he did in the past. The section presents the first writings he did as evangelical prose, A Heart Under a Priest's Clothes, and Desert's Love, which is distinguished by having a prose style. On the other hand, the poem section presents the rhythmical, balanced poems which had him hold a significant position in the history of French poetry. The first poem he published was entitled The Orphan's Birthday Presents. He wrote many other famous poems, but the last one he wrote wasn't translated into Arabic. The section Cursed Album and Profanities has not been translated into Arabic. Arabic translators hadn't translated them amongst the works they translated for the author. Actually, the poems of these 2 sections present a weird style different from Rimbaud's poetic style. The poetic section ends with the 2 famous poems A Season in Hell and Illuminations. The book includes important appendices about his messages which show his poetic and creative vision. There's also a piece of information on Brussels file which includes documents concerning the battle which took place between him and Feline. At the end, Feline was sent to jail in Belgium after shooting his best friend. There's also information about his immigration from Europe to an unknown place in the East. This book ends with a glossary comprising the expressions which he's mentioned in his book. The book cover was designed by the artist Ahmed El-Labed. The poet Rifat Salem presented before the Complete Poetic Works and the Complete Poetic Work by the Alexandrian Greek poet Constantine Kafafis. Besides this, he presented poetic works by Vladimir Mayakovsky, Pushkin, Lermontov, and Ritos during the 80s of the last century.